You know what I want to highlight there is I want to highlight that it took you 5 years to get there. And I think that's an amazing feat because stroke survivors need to know that if you can put something in your mind, it doesn't matter how long it takes, you can most likely get there and most likely
Yeah.
that thing. Just work towards it every day, small steps, and you'll get there.
This is Recovery After Stroke with Bill Gassiamis, helping you go from where you are to where you'd rather be.
Bill from recoveryafterstroke.com. This is episode 106, and my guest today is Kelly Studebaker. Kelly became a stroke survivor at age 11 due to a ruptured AVM, and at almost 40 years old now, she has recovered so well that she decided to become a one-armed powerlifter. Now, just before we get started, if you've just found this podcast, you may not know that you can download the full transcript of this episode from recoveryafterstroke.com. Simply go to recoveryafterstroke.com/episodes, scroll to find the name of the episode you just listened to, click on the link, and scroll down until you see the orange download transcript button. Click the download transcript button, enter your name and email address, and your download will begin. Also, when you get to the end of this episode, whether you are watching on YouTube or listening on your favorite podcast app, please do me a favor and share this episode in other groups you hang out in. This will help someone that is doing it tough at the moment, perhaps feel a little better about the journey they are on. If you feel this podcast makes a massive difference to you and the stroke community, please do me a favor and give the show a 5-star review on iTunes or wherever you download your podcasts from. And now it's on with the show. Kelly Studebaker, welcome to the podcast.
Hello.
Tell me a little bit about what happened to you.
So I was 11. I'm 39 now. I had a cerebral hemorrhage, which was an AVM, arteriovenous malformation. I hope I'm getting that right.
Yeah, pretty good.
And they rushed me to the hospital, and I had my first brain operation, just to stop the bleeding and, for them to get in there to see what was wrong. And then I waited for 3 weeks because they wanted to see if I would survive. During that time, I had a coma, and then that lasted for 10 days, and then they titrated me off medication so I could wake up because I didn't want my brain to swell. And then I pretty much started physical therapy. I don't know the timeline because I was so out of it, drugged up.
Yeah.
But
And you were young. You were only 11 years old. Was there any signs
yes.
before that? Since then, I imagine you've spoken with your parents about it. Was there any type of sign that might have suggested this little innocent 11-year-old was about to have a bleed in the brain?
So I would get these headaches, which now I know that headaches are pretty, substantial to having a stroke, but you know, it was the 80s. So it really, if I had a headache, I would just lay down. Um it was probably a migraine just because I wouldn't like light. Um,
So
I
you were light
didn't like
sensitive.
light.
So were you sound sensitive as well?
Yeah,
So it was just light.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
dark room.
And it got, yeah. Now that I'm looking back on it, um, I mean, I didn't have headaches all the time, but when I had them, they were pretty intense. So
Yeah. And when you woke up, perhaps can you recall at all what you had to learn how to do again, what you had to regain? So you would have been a
I
healthy 11-year-old until after surgery. What was it that you lost the ability to
I
do?
had to learn basically how to do everything over again because my right side was paralyzed and that was my dominant side. So I couldn't talk because of my stroke. So my mom found out that I could write, but I was writing with my left hand. So it was scribbles, just so she could, communicate with me. They didn't really know if I would ever be able to speak again because the part of my brain where it happened, um, that part of the brain really, speech is that part. And my right hand, it's like behind my left ear. So I don't know what section that is,
Yeah,
but yeah.
it's an important section.
Yeah, for sure.
So then at some point you would have gone back to school. Did you have to, was it a big struggle? Do you recall what kind of challenges you faced when you went back to school after this experience where now your body was not working the same way that it was prior to the bleed?
So I had, when I got shipped down to Children's in Cincinnati, Ohio, which you probably don't know where that is, but it's a very good hospital, and it has. I had my second operation to fix the brain bleed because I knew I was surviving, and then they had physical, occupational, and speech therapies, and I did that, every day for. I was in the hospital for about 3 months, and then when I went home from the hospital, my mom, my dad was working at the time. My mom would drive me down there 2 times a week, just for physical, occupational, and speech therapies. When I went back to school, like getting on the bus, that was a whole new experience for me because half my body didn't work. I walked with a cane for a while. I don't think that I went to school with a cane. I don't. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that I didn't. But I was a lot slower because of the stroke, because I can't run. I can't. Even now, I can't run. So, like I had an aide, and she would give me like 5 minutes. The school would give me 5 minutes, so I could get out of class. I could go to my other class, and then, you know, all hell would break loose, and all the kids would come out of the classes, and then, it was a really, really big change. But my family and my friends, they protected me. Basically, I wouldn't be where I am today without them.
If you've had a stroke and are in recovery, you'll know what a scary and confusing time it can be. You're likely to have a lot of questions going through your mind, like, how long will it take to recover? Will I actually recover? What things should I avoid in case I make matters worse? Doctors will explain things, but obviously because you've never had a stroke before, you probably don't know what questions to ask. If this is you, You may be missing out on doing things that could help speed up your recovery. If you're finding yourself in that situation, stop worrying and head to recoveryafterstroke.com, where you can download a guide that will help you. It's called 7 Questions to Ask Your Doctor About Your Stroke. These 7 questions are the ones Bill wished he'd asked when he was recovering from a stroke. They'll not only help you better understand your condition, they'll help you take a more active role in your recovery. Head to the website now, recoveryafterstroke.com, and download the guide. It's free.
In the 80s, when you went through that, was there a lot of support services for a child who had experienced such a traumatic event? Did you have counseling? Was there therapy? Was there anything to help you?
I had it in 92, and there was physical, occupational, and speech therapies. I didn't go to a counselor to deal with my head and stuff. I have been into a counselor to deal with my head stuff, like mental stuff, a couple times, just because it's a lot.
Do you mean there's a lot to deal with, or there's a lot to overcome? What do you mean by that? Like, what is that?
Well, I've had an interesting life. A lot of four of my friends have passed away, and my dad has passed away and stuff. So after those, moments of hell, I didn't really know where to turn, and I would go inward and like freak out. So that's when, like, after my dad died, and after actually I had a tragic experience with a boyfriend of mine, and after he died, I I I I I had counseling just because I didn't know how to deal with it.
Yeah.
And like anybody, like nobody really knows how to deal with
Stuff.
death. Yeah.
Do you find that there's unresolved things that also then come into play? So life goes on. Everyone has a traumatic experience with regards to a stroke experience. And then life goes on, normal, regular life things happen. Did you find that when those other things happened, then it kind of added to what you already went through in life, and perhaps
Yeah.
had too much to deal with because you hadn't really dealt with other issues?
Yeah. It was like a snowballing effect. Like I have all this other stuff to deal with because every day that I live is like a recovery day, and nobody really goes over that with you. But every day when I wake up, I realize that half my body is kind of screwed up. So, yeah. And then adding on, you know, the things that I've had to go through during my life. Yeah, it just it kind of shocks the system, and it kind of like you don't know what to do with it. I didn't know what to do with it, so
So
yeah.
counseling, talking therapy helped. How did you find that helped you?
Um, it was, I went to a grief counselor, and they just talked me through scenarios and stuff like that, just because um, I went to 2 years street grief counseling when my dad died, and 2 years grief counseling when my boyfriend died. So yeah.
So it helps. Talking about it helps, and getting another person's perspective helps. And did you feel better when they kind of make it normal in that people die, you don't feel well, you don't know how to deal with it. Did it
Yeah.
kind of make it feel better for you that you know that, okay, other people go through this thing as well, and I don't have the skills to deal with it. But now that I've been to counseling, I have this better understanding about the whole process.
I think that early on when I was rehabbing, like my junior high years, that's when people's brains like um, start developing, and I didn't really have time to get all that information. I was still at the trauma of my stroke, so I guess I was like not innocent, but
Naive, would you say?
naive. Yeah. And then when stuff happened, like I'm like, hey, I didn't really get. I don't know what to do here, and that pissed me off.
I know what you
Because
mean.
I couldn't really deal with it on my own. I'm
Yeah.
a very stubborn person.
Well, you kind of have to be a stroke survivor and continuously go through rehabilitation every single day, all the time, constantly on the road to recovery. So that's a good thing. But if it's getting in your way and it's interfering with your recovery, then it's a bit of a challenge. A reason I asked you about your counseling and your therapy and all that kind of stuff is just for people who are listening and watching to get a bit of an understanding of what happens and why we might avoid counseling, and then how counseling might help us move on and move forward, and also the complexity of life. And then for stroke survivors, there's a little bit more going on to regular life than regular people who are well, and we'll call them people who haven't had a stroke or a serious health issue. There's usually more complicated situations happening with when you throw stroke in the mix into life. And if people have been avoiding going and speaking to somebody and getting some talk therapy or getting some understanding about you know, what their feelings and their emotions are doing, then it's
Yeah,
perhaps going to set back their stroke recovery a little. And
yeah,
a lot of the times I hear a lot of stroke survivors say, oh, yeah, I did a heap of physical therapy. I did that for 5 years or 10 years. And then one day I realized that I never did the emotional therapy that I needed. I never healed from that stuff.
yeah. Like sometimes I remember stuff even now, and I'm like, I am so angry about that, and that happened when I was 11. Like it's so weird,
Yeah.
but I guess everybody has to go through what they have to go through.
And the fact that you have that realization at some point in your life is a great thing. But how silly is it? And I know it happens, so I'm not playing it down, but how silly is it? Because I'm the same, I've done the same thing. How silly is it to be angry about something that happened when you were 11 and now you're
Yeah,
nearly 40 and you're still going on about something that happened at 11?
it's challenging at times, and I'm laughing about it because it's it hasn't drove me crazy, but
So silly.
it's definitely been a challenge.
Yeah. But now that you're aware of it, is it easy to let go of that thing that happened when you were 11 and move on?
Yes and no.
Ah,
I'm a very physical person. Like I've done competitive powerlifting for a while, like for 5 years. Now I'm out of it, out of the circle, I guess you can call it. But like, I've done a half marathon on a rower just because um, I thought I couldn't do it, so I did it anyway. Um, I've flipped over tractor tires, like I've pulled a car, like and those things make me happy. So um I'm in ballet. I've always been in some sort of dance ever since I was little.
So you
Yeah.
said you said that you can't run or do anything like that, but can you stand and walk?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I can stand and walk, and I do pretty intense workouts because I can.
I love that. That's what I do with regards to walking up a flight of stairs. So if I go to a public building or a big building somewhere where they've got escalators or an elevator, instead of going in the escalator and the elevator, I make sure that I take the stairs. And the only reason I do it is because once upon a time I couldn't. And
Yeah.
now that I can, I'm never taking an escalator or an elevator if I can avoid it.
So there was somebody in Dayton, Ohio, got a hold of me, some of the firefighters, and wanted me to do a 9/11 stair climb, and that's like 111 flights of stairs, and I've done that like I've done that 3 years. Last year I had to take a year off because I had a headache, and you know, when I have a headache, like it's no joke. I'm down for the count.
Nothing's happening.
Yeah.
So do you think that kind of weirdly experiencing a stroke at 11 kind of puts you a little bit in a situation where you've got a lot of time to create a good recovery, and therefore you've benefited from having a stroke at 11, because most AVMs rupture in people's like mid 30s to mid 40s.
Yeah.
Do you think that?
So what I think helped me, I was so young and my brain was still developing, because your brain doesn't stop developing until you're in your 20s. So I had a lot of neuroplasticity happening, and then like my brain was like, oh, wait a minute, we have to switch gears. And I'm doing so well because I was so young, and I know what my body, goes through before like adulthood. Because as you get older, your knees start to wear out, everything starts to wear out. So you just have to stay physically active, especially for stroke survivors, just because, once you stop, you lose it all. Yeah. And that's just horrible.
Just keep going. I know, I agree with you. So, you're 11, you experience a stroke, then you're starting to recover. Did the stroke affect you growing up in that really critical time when you were a teenager and you were starting to think about, who you liked and dating and all those types of things?
Yes, I didn't really have a relationship until, I went out with a boy to prom or whatever, but like, I really didn't have a relationship until college, because I was just, trying to get better from my stroke. And I had homework and, you know, lots of things that just, the relationship wise stuff just kind of fell away just because, I was dealing with a lot of stuff.
Yeah. And then you finished school, did you go to college? Did you study to do something specific?
Well, actually, I went to school. I thought I wanted to be a pastor, which that all changed. But I went to school and I graduated with my Bachelor of Arts degree in communication from Ohio State, and I always wanted to do that. And a lot of doctors said that I couldn't do that. They didn't even think that I could finish high school. And I was on a trek to prove them wrong. Um, a lot of my accomplishments have been stuff that people said that I couldn't do. So I'm like, well, I'm gonna prove to you that I can do it. So, you know, watch me fly.
You're one of those people. I love that. I was one of the opposite. Somebody told me I couldn't do something, I believed them. And it took me a while to get over that in my life. You know, I think I was 30 before I started to get over listening to people say something's not possible. Now, I had my brain hemorrhage at 37. So I only had just started growing up at 30 when I started to not pay attention to people tell me that something's not possible, or you can't make money working in that field, or you can't do that, or whatever. So I love the fact that I come across people who do something just to prove somebody else wrong. I mean, I think it's such a good thing.
Did you have your stroke? Did it happen on your left side or did it happen on your right side?
It happened on my right side.
Okay. So
See that?
your left side's affected.
My left side's affected. So on my left side, I've got numbness from the top to the bottom, and pretty much from middle of my chest over. So I can stand, I can walk, I can run. Not a marathon, but I can run. I could probably run a marathon if I wanted to, but I don't want to. And I have a couple of balance issues. So when I get tired, I get a little bit more wobbly. Riding a bike was a real issue because my foot would get tired and it would fall off the pedal, and then I would lose my balance. If I put my foot on the ground, I didn't know where my foot was, so I would fall over. Those types of things. But most people who see me wouldn't know that I've had anything wrong. But for me, every day when I wake up, my left leg has to kind of wake up as well, and I've got to remind it that you're on the ground, make sure you're paying attention so that I don't trip over or anything like that. And my left side is really, really cold, much colder than my right side. Do you have...
Exactly. Yes. In the wintertime, it is fierce. Like I have to wear like super heavy socks, and when I go to sleep at night, like this whole side is like chilly. So yeah.
Do you ever get, in summer, you know what I get? I get perspiration on one side of my body, but not the other.
No, I don't have that problem. Yeah.
So my left side doesn't get sweaty and my right side does. So it takes a bit longer for my left side to feel like it needs to be sweaty. It's like two different people living in my body simultaneously.
Like you have two different sides of your body and they're squashed together.
Did somebody challenge you that you couldn't knit and you thought you decided to start knitting?
Oh, okay. Yeah. My sister actually taught me how to knit on looms about 9 years ago. And I've done like probably 500 to 600 hats, like for people. Just, hey, here's a hat, here's a hat, here's a hat, here's a hat, And just recently I have started to do hats with brims. I finally learned how to do that. And then I'm actually working on a scarf that isn't a tube. It's just one. It's really cool. It's really warm. I like it this winter.
I see you wearing it in your Instagram. I'm going through your photos now, and I can see
Yeah.
the scarf.
I love to knit. I just love it.
So
It's like my peacetime.
it's like your peacetime. What does it help you? What just is it like
Just
meditative? Like what?
me- just mellow out and just do something creative.
Yeah. And it's not something that you have to go and do anywhere in particular. You don't have to put a lot of effort in. You just need to get some needles, sit down with a couple of balls of wool and go for it, right?
No, actually, I have a loom,
Oh,
a circle loom that I do it with because my right hand doesn't work.
uh-huh.
I mean, it's just, my right hand is just around for, I don't know.
Because it was there all the time and still around.
It's just hanging out. When you see me walk, you can actually tell that something happened.
Yep.
So,
So you know how you're now nearly 40 and you've had almost 50.
oh.
It's a good age. It's a good age.
Okay.
It really is. I was going to ask you, have you been surprised over the years when you've noticed something come back or start to work that took a long, long time to come? Have you had any surprises like that over the years where one day you just noticed something was different?
So in what year? So my boyfriend died in 2013. And he told me that I couldn't flip over a tractor tire. A month before he died, and like I didn't say anything, but like that was just like bumbling in my chest. I'm like, oh no, you didn't. Um, so I went into this gym, and it was a powerlifting gym. And when I went in there, it was just all Viking dudes with long beards, and it was bench night, and everybody was looking at me weird, and I'm like, what am I doing in here? I just wanted to flip over a tractor tire. And I went in for a boot camp class, and it met like 3 times a week. And that's what I told the instructor. And little did I know, she was a physical therapist. So she basically had me flipping the tire tractor over in 4 months from that time. So yeah, and it just kind of built on there. Like I've got much more confidence in myself because I've been able to work out with weights and actually know what I'm doing, and being confident that I'm not going to, hurt myself, which I have done, but I get back up and I go. Yeah, so it was kind of like a rediscovery of myself. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I'm looking at one of the photos, and you're a barbell with 2 yellow weights on the side. I don't know how heavy they are.
yeah.
You're wearing a brace, and your right arm is not working,
Yeah.
and your left arm it's like
Jacked.
yeah. I mean, how do you deal with the trying to get balanced sort of strength or muscles in both sides of your body when one of your arms is not able to do the weights? Like, how do you work that?
So I just basically told myself that my right side is going to get stronger, without a doubt. But it's not going to be as well defined as my left side, because I've been working out my left side my entire life, you know. There's lots of times when I've carried up my laundry up and down the stairs, you know. So I mean, my right side is stronger, but not as strong as my left side. I mean, you can really tell a difference between my calves, just because I've been walking with this left side being dominant for 28 years. So it's going to, I'm never going to match. Like, I'm never going to be symmetrical. And I always used, when I was growing up, I would always wear jeans because I didn't think that people could see my disability through my jeans, which obviously that was not true. But
It helped you.
yeah.
That is interesting to me. I don't lift any weights or anything like that, but my chiropractor noticed that my left side is a lot less defined than my right side, and all I'm doing is just, and I don't have that level of disability. All I have is numbness and a preference to avoid using one side, because if I try and do barbells or bench press and the left side gets a bit shaky, I get panicky and I think I'm gonna stop it, right? And of course, my right side can lift way much more than my left side, but it kind of always is in the back of my mind that I might drop the left side because my hand might just go to sleep in a second, you know, it does that sometimes. And he's noticed that there's a massive difference, and don't really notice that I'm preferencing one side over the other. But I can imagine what it's like for you, especially as a power lifter, lifting with one arm like that much weight is a really cool thing. Do you have to do things slightly differently than the regular able-bodied person because you're lifting? You've got to kind of shift your balance somehow to protect yourself in a different way.
There was this really cool guy that I got to know early on in my powerlifting, you know, journey, whatever. And he hurt himself in a motorcycle crash, so his right arm doesn't work. So he lifts with one arm, and I met him and we just started talking, and he's like, well, you can deadlift, and that's what I'm doing in that picture. And I'm like, no, I can't. I'm like, how? And he showed me like the feet, like you have to get your feet lined up a certain way because of my disability. And I just started really low. Like I couldn't do what I'm doing in that picture. Like that took me like 5 years to do. And I think that I did like 10 reps of 120, I don't know, 121 pounds. But that was when I was, you know, training and stuff. Yeah. And now with this pandemic going on and stuff, I couldn't do that. No.
It's easy stuff. But I would say, you know what I want to highlight there is I want to highlight that it took you 5 years to get there. And I think that's an amazing feat because stroke survivors need to know that if you can put something in your mind, it doesn't matter how long it takes, you can most likely get there and most likely
Yeah.
that thing. Just work towards it every day, small steps, and you'll get there.
Yeah. Like, I didn't really know. I love to row. It's a rowing machine. It's called the C2 rower. You see them a lot in CrossFit.
Yep.
And I love to row. It's something, it's not, I don't get the feeling of running, but it's more, it's like a full body workout. So
Yeah.
I would just do it with one arm, and both my feet were up. And one day last year, I'm like, well, why not do it with both my arms? And I I basically tied my right hand down to the handle,
Yep.
and I can pull back. I can row a couple strokes, but it's gonna take me a while. But
Yeah, I like
I
that.
learned how to do that.
So tying it, are you putting your hand over, are you kind of wrapping it around the bar and tying it like
Yeah, I wrap it around the bar, and then I tie it on with a bench strap.
Yeah.
Because that's what I had in my bag at the time. Yeah, so it's really interesting that you can do stuff. It just takes a while.
You got to get a little bit more creative as to how you
Yeah.
go about doing it. I often am fascinated seeing those. Um, in Australia, we've got the world champion wheelchair tennis player, and I don't know what happened to the dude, but all I know is I don't know if he would have been a world champion at anything if he didn't have the disability that he has. So he kind of he seems to me to be a normal guy, but the fact that he's got this disability is pushing him further and further than he's ever been pushed. So he's in a wheelchair and it doesn't look, he might be paralyzed from the waist down, it appears, because he's pretty handy above the waist. He's fit, he's got good arms, he pushes around his wheelchair, around his tennis court like nothing else. And he's the best in the world. So
Yeah.
I see people who are the best in the world in the Paralympics or in other sports, and sometimes I would love to interview them just to wonder, to find out, like, if you didn't have this disability, do you reckon you would have been that motivated? And I suppose that's a good question for you. Do you think that you would have been that motivated?
No, probably not. I mean, I probably would have had a family with kids and stuff.
Yeah.
I've never been married, and that's, I don't know, that's just not the way that my life went.
Yeah.
So I have other hobbies that I can explore, I guess.
Yep. Awesome. And they're great hobbies. Let me ask you a question about powerlifting and eating. When you're training, tell me about how much food you have to eat.
I didn't really pick up my eating or
Oh,
whatever, but like there was people around me that, like, you know, they would eat 6 times a day and stuff like that, and I'm like, holy mackerel, I eat 3 times a day. I was eating like, you know, 2 eggs in the morning, and then like um just hearty stuff, you know. Um but I didn't really go into it Um, I really didn't go into it thinking like, oh, I have to eat this and I have to do this. I just kind of, it was just like a trial and error. Like sometimes I would get so sore and have to take some time off, like a couple days, when I wouldn't go to the gym just because I would overdo it. I mean, I slept a lot because um, my body was just going through changes and wrecked, basically.
Yeah.
Because um, when I was competing, like they would take you through like these 12 or 14-week training cycles, and the instructions like do this many reps of this and whatever, like it was for a normal person. And while I'm not a normal person. I'm not a normal person at all. So when I would do these workouts and I would do them with the best of my ability, when I would come home, I would just crash just because I was so tired. I mean, it's something that I like to do.
Yeah, I get you. Did you ever, do you ever, or did you still experience neurological fatigue? Is that something that was part of your life after the stroke?
Like brain fog, or when I get brain fog, it's normally because emotional stuff is happening to me.
Wow.
When I'm training, I'm not training right now, but when I'm training, like it seems I don't have brain fog when I'm training.
Wow.
But I'm more physically tired. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just something to do.
I hear you. I'm just curious about like how your body reacts to doing that much, to putting in that much effort. A lot of stroke survivors talk about neurological fatigue and brain fog. But I love what you said, which is slightly different to what most other people say. And I imagine there's a lot of people who experience what you just said, which was neurological brain fog after an a big emotional experience. Like that's really interesting. Most people
Yeah.
don't say that.
I've been through a lot, enough stuff that when I'm challenging myself physically, I feel like it's mind over matter.
Yeah.
Like I can do stuff, physically, but emotionally I'm weaker. Because I haven't had that much training in it. I don't know, probably.
100%, you nailed it. That's exactly what people don't do. They don't do enough training to deal with emotional issues because it's a bit scary, and it makes sense. But the thing about when you deal with emotional issues and you train yourself to go there, if it's hard, it's once you've gone to the hard part, it's better afterwards. It's always better afterwards. It's no different to going to the gym and waking up and being, oh my God, I got to go to the gym. I got to go to the gym. And then you make yourself go. And then after you've been, you go, oh, I'm so glad I went. That was amazing.
Yeah.
Dealing with emotional issues is very similar. At least that's what I've found. And I know they can be traumatic, but to release the trauma, it's the same as climbing up those stairs, those 100 flights of stairs. There's only one way to do it. You've got to push through the pain threshold to get to the other side. And once you push through, then it becomes nothing. It's like, nah, what do you mean? 100 flights of stairs? I've done that. It means nothing. It's not a problem for me. And that's what it's like dealing with emotional challenges. And I'll give you this analogy. Say that it was essential that every year you had to climb 100 flights of stairs. And if you didn't climb it, the next year you had to do 200. And if you didn't do those, they were waiting for you the next year and you had to do 300. You can see that.
Yeah, I would just do 100 every year.
Yeah, right. Because by the time you get to year 3, if you've got to do 300 flights of stairs, it is such a dramatic issue. It's such a problem that it's really difficult to get to that, right? However, if you chip away at those 100 at a time, then you can still say you've done 300 flights of stairs in 3 years, and that's a better way to do them. And that's what emotional trauma is like. Every time you get traumatized and you don't deal with it, it's waiting there for you next time.
Yeah.
You get the next one happen, and then the next one, and they're all waiting for you, and they don't go away until you deal with all of them. And then when we get to our midlife, our 40s, and before we have our midlife crisis, there's so many of them because we haven't had the training to deal with
I
it.
think that I've been through a lot of midlife crises.
Every 2 years. Every couple of years or so, have you? Is that how often you do your midlife crisis?
Yeah, I think so.
I know. You're no different to any other human being on the planet. We're on this planet, and sometimes things happen to us and we don't choose. So we've just got to become a little braver in tackling them, like you tackle your deadlift or your.
I haven't deadlifted in like 6 months, maybe.
Are you looking forward to doing it again?
What?
Are you looking forward to getting back to it?
Right now I'm doing this program. His name is Derek Wida. He's he's a military guy, and he's retired because like he has a not a fake leg. Well, yeah, a fake leg, but oh my gosh, what is it? Prosthetic. Yes, I'm sorry. And he's a big like CrossFit dude, so I've been working out like a home workout, and man, it's intense. Like I couldn't, like my kneecaps were sweating today. Like my kneecaps were sweating. I couldn't even finish the workout. I felt like such a wimp. But whatever. It happens.
Yeah. Wow. Hey, tell me a little bit about the thinking behind your Instagram tag, the Crip Life. What's behind the thinking behind that?
So, in America, we have this TV show that was on, My So-Called Life, and I really liked that in the 90s. And when I was thinking up of a name, like it just appeared in my head. I'm like, This Crip Life. Yeah. It's, I guess it's like a slogan for people to, log onto my page or whatever. And it's kind of like a play on words, like, I'm crippled, but I'm doing cool shit, Yeah.
You definitely are. Hey, thank you so much for being on the podcast and making a massive effort to be on here, because the first time it didn't work. We tried to get together and it didn't work. And it seems like you're in a way better location for the
Yeah.
today than you were. So I really appreciate getting to know you a little bit and understanding a little bit about what's behind, the person who I've got to follow on Instagram. And keep doing
Thank
what
you.
you're doing. And I'm really looking forward to getting to know a little bit more about you and seeing more of what happens in the years to come.
Discover how to support your recovery after stroke. Go to recoveryafterstroke.com.